Angola Prison sits deep in rural Louisiana, surrounded by farmland, rivers, and miles of isolation. Long before an inmate ever arrives, the location itself sends a message. Once you come here, the outside world feels impossibly far away. Officially known as the Louisiana State Penitentiary, Angola is the largest maximum security prison in the United States. It houses thousands of inmates, many serving life sentences, many never expected to leave. For decades, Angola has carried a reputation not just as a prison, but as a final destination within the American justice system. And for every inmate who ends up here, the journey begins long before the gates come into view. It begins with a decision. Not every inmate in Louisiana ends up at Angola. Transfers here are deliberate and calculated. Angola is reserved for those convicted of the most serious crimes, those with long sentences, or those deemed too dangerous for smaller facilities. By the time an inmate is selected for transfer, their fate is already sealed. Paperwork moves quietly through the system. Classification officers review security levels, behavior history, and sentence length. Once the decision is made, there is no negotiation. The inmate is informed, sometimes with only days' notice. This isn't just a change of prison. It's a change of life. Because Angola is not designed for short stays. It is designed for permanence. The night before transfer is often the longest. Inmates are told to prepare what little property they are allowed to carry. Everything else is boxed, discarded, or left behind. Cells feel smaller than usual. Conversations grow quieter. Some inmates already know what Angola means. Others only understand when they see the looks from guards and fellow prisoners. Angola has a way of silencing bravado. Sleep rarely comes easily. For many, this is the moment reality finally settles in. The possibility that this prison will be the last place they ever live. When morning arrives, there is no ceremony. Just orders. Before dawn, inmates selected for Angola are removed from their cells one by one. Hands are restrained. Leg irons are secured. Movement is slow and deliberate. Every step is documented. Every item is searched. Windows are narrow. Seating is rigid. Conversation is minimal or forbidden entirely. As the bus doors close, the reality becomes unavoidable. The road ahead leads only one way. The drive to Angola is long and quiet. Outside the bus windows, cities fade into farmland. Roads narrow. Civilization thins. Guards remain alert as the miles pass, knowing that escape attempts during transfers are rare, but never impossible. Inside the bus, inmates sit restrained for hours. Some stare straight ahead. Some lower their heads. Others quietly take in a landscape, knowing it may be the last time they see freedom from behind glass. The farther they travel, the more isolated everything becomes. And then, finally, the bus turns off the main road. Angola does not look like most prisons. Instead of towering buildings, inmates see open land stretching for miles, fields, fences, guard towers standing over farmland. The prison sits on what was once a plantation, and its size is overwhelming. As the bus pulls in, armed officers are already waiting. Inmates are unloaded carefully, one at a time. Identification is checked again. Chains remain on. Silence is enforced. This is not intake. This is induction. Every inmate understands now, Angola is not just a facility, it is a system built to last longer than they will. Once inside, the final steps of transfer begin. Inmates are searched, photographed, and assigned identification numbers tied to Angola alone. Personal clothing is removed. Prison uniforms replace everything they once wore. Medical checks are brief but mandatory. Records are reviewed. Security classifications are finalized. Each inmate is assigned housing based on risk, behavior, and sentence. For many, this is the moment that breaks them. Because the paperwork is complete. The gates are behind them. And Angola is now home. Not for months. Not for years. But possibly forever. Once processing ends, inmates are moved deeper into Angola. This is the first time many of them truly grasp the scale of where they've been sent. The walk alone feels endless. Long roads cut through open fields. Guard towers rise above farmland instead of concrete yards. There are no nearby city sounds, only wind, distant machinery, and orders from guards. Unlike other prisons, Angola doesn't feel enclosed at first. It feels exposed. Too open. Too permanent. For inmates arriving from smaller facilities, the size is overwhelming. Angola is not a single prison building. It is a self-contained world. And they are now part of it. After arrival, inmates are classified again, this time under Angola's rules. Security level determines everything. Where they sleep, who they interact with, what work they are assigned, how closely they are watched. Some inmates are placed into general population dorms. Others are separated due to risk, history, or behavior. Classification is not just about safety, it's about order. Angola runs on structure. Every inmate must fit into the system, or the system will correct them. And correction here is strict. Angola is known as America's largest prison farm, and that identity defines daily life. At sunrise, work crews move out across thousands of acres. Fields stretch as far as the eye can see. Inmates work under supervision, maintaining crops, livestock, and infrastructure. The labor is physical and repetitive. The sun is relentless. Breaks are short. Discipline is constant. For many inmates, this work becomes routine, not freedom, but purpose. For others, it feels like a reminder of how far removed Angola is from modern prison life. Either way, the work never stops, because Angola was built to function, not just to confine. Survival at Angola depends on understanding the rules, both written and unwritten. Written rules are enforced by guards, movement schedules, work expectations, strict counts, zero tolerance for disobedience. Unwritten rules are learned quickly: who to avoid, when to speak, when to stay silent. Angola is not chaotic, it is controlled. But control doesn't remove tension. It simply keeps it beneath the surface. And inmates learn fast that mistakes here carry long consequences. Angola's reputation didn't come from stories, it came from reality. For decades, it housed some of the most dangerous offenders in Louisiana. Violence, harsh discipline, and long sentences shaped its identity. But the deepest fear comes from something else: time. Many inmates at Angola are serving life sentences, some without parole, some with no realistic chance of release. Angola isn't feared because it's violent every day. It's feared because it is where sentences become permanent, where the future shrinks to routine, where years disappear quietly. Over time, something changes in inmates who realize Angola may be their final stop. Some become withdrawn. Some become hyper-focused on routine. Others build lives inside the prison: work roles, hobbies, social circles. Angola forces inmates to confront permanence. There is no countdown clock, no release date to look forward to, only seasons changing over the fields. This reality reshapes behavior more effectively than force ever could. Discipline at Angola is firm and predictable. Rule violations result in restricted movement, loss of privileges, or reassignment. Serious violations lead to isolation or transfer to higher security units. The system is designed to discourage disruption, not through fear alone, but through consistency. Inmates know exactly what will happen if they cross the line. And because many will never leave Angola, consequences matter more here than anywhere else. Over time, Angola stops feeling like a prison and starts feeling like a closed society. There are jobs, schedules, hierarchy, routine. Inmates wake up, work, eat, and sleep under the same rhythms every day. Years pass. New inmates arrive. Others fade quietly into the system. Angola doesn't rush time. It absorbs it. And for those transferred here, the realization is complete. This isn't just where they are imprisoned. This is where their life will continue. Inside the fences, under the towers, surrounded by endless fields. By the time inmates settle into Angola's routine, they begin to understand something crucial: this prison never truly rests. Counts happen multiple times a day. Movement is tracked. Work crews are monitored from towers and vehicles. Every action fits into a system designed to prevent disorder before it begins. Unlike smaller prisons, Angola cannot afford chaos. Its size alone makes control a constant priority. So the system runs quietly, relentlessly, a machine built on predictability. And for inmates, predictability becomes both safety and confinement. Inside Angola, Hierarchy still exists, but it looks different. There are inmates with work privileges, trusted with responsibility. Others remain under tighter supervision. Status is not earned through fear, but through compliance. Because at Angola, aggression does not create power. Time does. Those who learn the system survive it more easily. Those who fight it discover how unforgiving permanence can be. Angola doesn't reward dominance. It rewards endurance. As months turn into years, the outside world becomes distant. Visits are limited. Families age. Children grow up. Life beyond the fences continues without those inside. For inmates serving long or life sentences, Angola becomes the only reality that matters. News arrives slowly. Technology feels foreign. Time fractures. Some inmates stop asking about the outside altogether. Because Angola is not just where they live, it becomes the only place they exist. Despite its strict order, Angola has never escaped criticism. Advocacy groups question life sentences and prison labor. Historians point to the prison's past, tied to plantation land and forced work. Critics argue that Angola represents an outdated model of incarceration. Supporters counter that Angola maintains stability in a system housing thousands of long-term inmates. They argue that structure, work, and routine prevent chaos. The debate has never settled. Angola stands at the center of a larger conversation about justice, punishment, and what society expects prisons to accomplish. Despite controversy, Angola remains operational for one reason: it fulfills a role few prisons can. It houses inmates other facilities cannot. It absorbs long sentences that would overwhelm smaller institutions. It maintains control across scale, time, and population. Angola exists not because it is perfect, but because it is necessary within the current system. And until the system itself changes, Angola remains a cornerstone of American incarceration. At Angola, life is measured in routine, not milestones. Meals arrive on schedule. Work follows the sun. Counts divide the day. Seasons replace calendars. Inmates learn to mark time not by dates, but by repetition. The same paths, the same fields, the same sounds. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. And that quiet defines Angola more than any headline ever could. Looking back, the transfer to Angola is more than a physical move. It is a shift in identity, a realization that life has entered a different phase, a moment where uncertainty ends and permanence begins. For the inmates sent here, the transfer marks the dividing line between temporary punishment and long-term existence. Angola does not promise redemption. It does not promise release. It promises structure, order, and time. And for many, that promise defines the rest of their lives. Over time, Angola becomes a place where generations overlap. Some inmates arrive young and grow old behind the fences. Others arrive already hardened by years in other prisons and settle into Angola as their final stop. Men watch newcomers arrive while long-time inmates quietly disappear, transferred, hospitalized, or buried. Stories are passed down informally. Which work crews are toughest? Which dorms stay quiet? Which mistakes never to repeat? Angola becomes a living memory, a prison shaped not just by rules, but by decades of accumulated experience. At its full scale, Angola operates less like a prison and more like a small city. There are roads, workshops, medical facilities, kitchens, and housing units spread across miles of land. Tractors move through fields. Supply trucks roll in daily. Guards rotate shifts like municipal workers. This scale changes everything. Emergencies must be planned hours ahead. Security decisions affect thousands at once. Even small disruptions ripple across the entire compound. Angola doesn't just confine people. It manages a population larger than many towns. After years inside Angola, routine stops feeling imposed. It becomes identity. Inmates wake automatically before counts. They move without instruction. They anticipate schedules before they are announced. Some find stability in this structure. Others feel erased by it. But almost everyone reaches the same realization. Angola doesn't need to remind you where you are. Your body already knows. Despite the weight of permanence, moments of normalcy still exist. Conversations during work details. Quiet laughter in dorms. A rare visit that reminds inmates of life beyond the fields. These moments don't erase Angola's reality, but they soften it. They become proof that even in a place designed for long sentences and strict control, Human behavior never fully disappears. And those moments matter more than outsiders often realize. As years pass, the meaning of time shifts. Weeks no longer matter. Months blend together. Only seasons mark progress. Some inmates stop counting altogether. Others create personal markers, harvest cycles, routine changes, weather patterns. Angola doesn't rush time. It stretches it. And in that stretch, perceptions change. Regret softens. Anger dulls. Acceptance takes hold. Outside Angola, the world debates prison reform, sentencing laws, and alternatives to incarceration. Inside, change comes slowly. Policies adjust. Procedures evolve. But the core of Angola remains steady. Its land doesn't move. Its role doesn't shift quickly. Its purpose stays constant. Angola doesn't react to trends. It absorbs them, cautiously. Even as newer facilities are built elsewhere, Angola continues to matter. It holds history. It holds scale. It holds the reality of long-term incarceration in America. Angola forces uncomfortable questions. What do we do with inmates who will never be released? How do we balance order with humanity? What does justice look like when time has no end? There are no easy answers. And Angola never pretends there are. Angola has never been about dramatic endings. There are no countdowns. No closing gates. No final chapters. Transfers continue. Work crews move at sunrise. Counts happen on schedule. Life goes on, measured, controlled, and quiet. And for every inmate who arrives, the story begins again at the same point. A bus. A long road. Endless fields. And a prison that doesn't promise release, only time. Even after decades of operation, Angola never stops receiving new inmates. Transfer buses continue to arrive on schedule. Paperwork continues to move through the system. Cells open. Cells close. For inmates who have lived at Angola for years, new arrivals are reminders of how long they've been there. Fresh faces still carry uncertainty. Their movements are slower. Their eyes scan the land as if trying to measure the distance back to freedom. Veteran inmates recognize it instantly, the moment when realization settles in. Angola does not rush that moment. It allows it to unfold naturally. Inside Angola, sentences carry a different meaning. A 5-year sentence feels short. A 20-year sentence feels endless. A life sentence feels permanent. The length of time changes how inmates think, speak, and plan. Some talk about the future. Others stop using the word entirely. Angola teaches inmates to live without expecting change. Not through force, but through repetition. Survival at Angola isn't about strength. It's about adaptation. Inmates who last are the ones who understand the rhythm of the prison. They follow schedules. They avoid unnecessary conflict. They learn when to speak and when to disappear into routine. Adaptation becomes instinct. And instinct becomes survival. Angola doesn't reward resistance. It rewards those who learn how to exist within it. Over time, the outside world begins to feel distant, almost fictional. Technology advances beyond recognition. Cities change. Language evolves. For inmates who have been inside for decades, news from outside feels abstract. The world they remember no longer exists the same way. Angola becomes the reference point for reality. Everything else becomes a memory. Order at Angola is not accidental. It is enforced, maintained, and protected. Schedules are rigid. Rules are clear. Consequences are predictable. This order keeps a population of thousands functioning with minimal disruption. Without it, the scale of Angola would collapse into chaos. Order is the invisible structure holding everything together. Riots end. Policies change. Leadership rotates. But Angola remains. It has absorbed generations of inmates, officers, reforms, and criticism. It doesn't react emotionally. It doesn't move quickly. It endures. Angola outlives moments because it was built to. In the end, nothing inside Angola holds more power than time. Time decides who adapts. Time decides who breaks. Time decides what matters. The prison does not argue with it. It simply enforces it. And as long as inmates continue to be transferred down that long road, past the fields and towers, Angola's story continues, steady, controlled, and unfinished. But time does not move the same way for everyone inside Angola. For some inmates, years soften the sharp edges they arrived with. Anger fades. Urgency disappears. The need to prove something slowly dissolves. For others, time does the opposite. It hardens silence into isolation. Men who once spoke often begin to withdraw. The routine becomes mechanical. Days are endured, not lived. Angola doesn't force these changes. It allows time to do the work on its own. And time, inside these fences, is relentless. As decades pass, Angola's population grows older. Hair turns grey. Bodies slow down. Work assignments change. Some inmates who once worked the fields now move carefully with canes. Others are reassigned to lighter duties or remain inside dorms most days. Angola quietly adapts to age. Medical appointments increase. Mobility becomes a concern. Entire housing areas shift to accommodate inmates who will never leave, but are no longer physically able to live the way they once did. The prison becomes not just a place of punishment, but a place where people grow old. With age comes illness. Chronic conditions replace disciplinary issues. Doctors and nurses become familiar faces. Medication schedules become as important as count times. For some inmates, Angola becomes the place where they receive the most consistent medical care they have ever known, not because it is generous, but because it is necessary. The system adjusts again. Care replaces correction. Stability replaces control. And the prison quietly prepares for something it has always handled, but never openly discussed: the end of life. Angola operates one of the largest prison hospice programs in the United States. When inmates reach their final stages of life, they are not transferred out. They remain inside the fences, surrounded by routines they've known for decades. Other inmates are trained to assist, providing care, sitting quietly, helping where guards cannot. There is no drama here. No headlines. Just quiet presence. Death inside Angola is not sudden. It is slow, expected, and handled with a level of order that mirrors the rest of the prison. When an inmate dies, the prison does not stop. Counts continue. Work crews move. Schedules remain intact. But within the housing units, everyone knows. A bunk is empty. A routine is broken. A name is quietly removed from a system. Some inmates attend small memorials. Others say nothing at all. Angola absorbs loss the same way it absorbs time, without ceremony, without pause. And then it moves forward. Inmates are not the only ones shaped by time. Many correctional officers spend entire careers at Angola. They arrive young, raise families nearby, and retire having spent decades inside the same fences. They watch inmates age. They witness transfers, deaths, and slow transformations. They learn the rhythm of Angola until it becomes second nature. For them, Angola is not just a job. It is a lifetime of routine, responsibility, and restraint. And when they leave, the prison continues without them. Angola absorbs anger. It absorbs regret. It absorbs time, health, strength, and youth. It does not argue with what enters its gates. It does not negotiate. It simply holds. Decade after decade, Angola remains steady, a place where consequences are not dramatic, but permanent. To some, Angola represents justice, a system capable of holding those who will never return to society. To others, it represents a question that has no easy answer. What does punishment mean when it lasts a lifetime? Angola does not provide the answer. It exists as the result of that question. And as long as the system requires a place for long sentences and final destinations, Angola remains. For most inmates, the final transfer out of Angola is not a bus ride. It is a hospital bed, a quiet room, a name removed from the count. There are no release papers, no gates opening outward, no return to the road they once traveled. Angola does not disguise this reality. It was never built to promise an exit. Every story that begins with a transfer to Angola ends the same way. Not suddenly, not violently, but slowly. A prison surrounded by fields. A routine that never changes. A system that continues long after individual lives end. Angola does not chase closure. It does not offer redemption or final judgment. It simply stands, holding time, holding people, holding consequences. And when the road ends at Angola, the story does not end with escape. It ends with permanence.